This is a detailed look at the Romahome HyLo, and the model I'm looking at is based on a 2005 Citroën Berlingo base. Romahome make no changes whatsoever to the chassis, and the only obvious visible change is obviously the rear extension to the body. However, underneath, Romahome do make a few changes here by the addition of the rear steadies for stabilising the vehicle when parked, the water tank, an Eberspacher heater in some cases, and rear spring assisters fitted to the rear suspension. When arriving at a campsite or overnight parking spot, the first thing to do is to lower the rear steadies. You don't have to do this, it just keeps the van much more stable, particularly if there are two people in it. So lower the steadies, and it's a good idea to just put some wood down, particularly if you're parking on concrete. On opening the rear door fully, you'll notice there's a stay here which holds it securely in place, and there's this lever here to pull and release it. Now inside, to gain the full benefit of the rear standing headroom, open the clips, push up, bring the spring back and release. Now push it up and open the flaps for ventilation. Inside the van, to the left is the sink, then to the right is the gas hob with glass lid, grill underneath and fridge. The fridge is a three-way fridge, so it works on 12 volt while driving, mains when on hookup, and gas when parked without a hookup. To switch on to 12 volt while driving, press the fridge button which illuminates and also illuminates the red fridge switch. These all work on gas. By switching the gas lever to the left or horizontal position allows the gas to flow through, then after use just switch it off again. The gas is switched on outside the van in this gas locker. Gas bottles are not included with Romahome's. As for a 3.9 kilo, which is 7.8 litres propane, that way you can use it year round, and unlike butane it doesn't freeze. The standard fitting for these is actually a bolt, for which you need a spanner, which is guaranteed to give you scratched knuckles, so we replace that with this thumb wheel, which makes it very much easier to fit and is much more accessible. To open the gas, just open it at the bottle, ensure the gas is switched on here, press the ignition button, which is a bit fiddly while holding the camera, switch it to maximum position, and the gas lights. Same for the other one as well. I'm to press ignition here, so that's both hobs working there. There's also the grill. I'll just remove the grill pan, and that operates the same way, but this time the middle one. Give a little puff as that lights. You just about see the flame there. Then turn off, switching to the circle. To light the fridge, hold this lever in on the flame, and I'll try and hold it while I ignite it, then press the orange igniter, and once you hear that puff, just keep this held in for a few seconds longer to keep the gas supply, and then you should see it illuminated purple in the little viewing window. There you can see the flame. if the gas goes out, which I'll demonstrate by switching it off here, then that will start to click, indicating the gas isn't lit. But just hold it in and then it relights. Then turn everything off after use. When not in use, it's a good practice to get into to always turn the gas off. And now, on the subject of gas, a common question is, how do you know how much gas is left in the bottle? You can buy little sticky things that stick on, but they're not that reliable. So what I use is this scale. When I get a full bottle, I weigh it, hold it up, loop it on, weigh the bottle, then deduct the 7 kilos of gas, and that gives me the empty bottle weight, so I can always weigh it in use and know how much gas is left. This is a ventilated locker, by the way, with a drop vent at the bottom. Hoses should be replaced every either 5 or 10 years, I can never remember. This one was replaced in 2018, although the hose is stamped 2017. The tap runs on 12 volt, so ensure that the battery is switched to caravan battery as opposed to engine battery by pressing there. Switch on the pump and then you'll be able to switch the tap on and off. In the winter it's a good idea to leave it switched on, then turn the pump off, and that will help prevent the tap freezing. Romahome also supply a chopping board which fits comfortably over the sink. Then in the kitchen cupboard I've got 2 compartments plus a slide out tray which should have a cutlery drawer on it, only I've removed that and I've got it separately. Above the sink is a wardrobe area with a hanging thingy, not really worked that out, and a long hanging storage space. It goes right down almost arm's length. To access the 12 volt electrics and battery, raise this lever here, which allows you to push the back of the seat forwards to make a platform. Then lift the lever here, and this lifts the entire seat over to expose the battery, the zig, the electrics and all the fuses. The standard Romahome leisure battery is 75 to 78 amp hours. In the case of mine, I replaced it with a 130 amp hour battery because I mostly wild camp and I wanted the extra capacity. This is the zig, which charges the leisure battery when plugged in. We also added extra 12 volt sockets which are individually fused. These are the other fuses which we replaced with blade fuses rather than the old torpedoes, and the relays for the fridge. The leisure battery must vent externally via this tubing which goes through the body and to the outside. There's also a further 12 volt socket here below the hob, which is switched on and off via the aux switch on the zig unit, but in the case of my van at least, this can be a bit hit and miss. The connection is a bit loose, so you have to get your hand underneath and into this tight gap here and tighten it up. It's a bit fiddly, but what tends to happen is as you bounce along driving, it can work a bit loose. So it's not 100% reliable, and I think this is the case on others in other vehicles too. There are 2 independent power systems in the Romahome, the 230 to 40 volt mains and 12 volt. This is the mains plug, and you can fit a 4-gang lead to boost that from 1 socket to 4. And in the locker next to the sink you can see the RCDs. So if it trips at all in use, just flick it back on again. 12 volt power levels can be monitored here on this zig. So you've got the engine battery here, which should be about 12.5 volts, and then the caravan battery, which is normally a little bit higher, but in the case of this vehicle, because I've got solar panels, it's always fully charged. So solar panels are not standard with Romahomes, but I'm a wild camper, I don't use campsites, and I wanted independence, so I fitted two 100-watt panels plus capacity for a third. To look at the settings, the charge limit is set to 14.4 volts, which is the maximum you want the leisure battery to be at, so set this to either 14.4 or 14.2 volts, and that's the point at which charging cuts off. It's 24 degrees in the van, currently not generating anything because of course the battery is fully charged, nothing going out either, generated 1000 amp hours to date, and back to the beginning. To demonstrate the level falling now, or some charge going in, I'll switch everything on that I've got. So, got one light on, second light, cool fan, and the tap. So this will all now be drawing from the leisure battery, and you can see the leisure battery voltage has now dropped to 13.4, and there should soon be some charge going in. There's 1 amp going in at the moment. That just shows how it works. So you're generating free power there, even on today, which is a cloudy day in drizzle. Just turn everything off now. Now the voltage is 13.4 volts, and you can see there's some charge going in. Now a quick lesson on 12 volt electrics. You can't plug a kettle, a hairdryer or a heater into a 12 volt socket and expect to not drain the leisure battery. Similarly, you can't plug in a radiator or anything with a 13 amp plug into one of those sockets and expect it to be powered. The two systems are completely different, so you need to be aware of that and also calculate how much each appliance is going to drain the leisure battery. So if you plug in a laptop, for example, which draws 40 watts in standard mains power terms, that equates to about 3.5 amps in round numbers on 12 volt. So if you've got a 130 amp hour leisure battery, you don't want to take that below half. So say it's a little bit out of condition, so rather than 130 amps, call it 120. You don't want to take that below 60. So if you're using a laptop that say draws 4 amps, that equates to 60 divided by 4 to show how long you can use it for, which would be roughly 15 hours maximum use. Not that you really want to do that. If you use a transformer, the transformer will also draw a little bit extra power. So say now for round numbers 6 amps are being drawn instead of 4. That's not realistic, but that will give you say 10 hours. I'm just using round numbers purely for simplicity and illustrative examples. If you're plugged into the mains on a campsite, then that's not an issue at all. And this is where you would plug into the main supply on a campsite. So you'd need a hookup lead of about 10 to 15 meters. You plug into this point here on the vehicle, close the flap, and on a campsite you'd see sockets like that to plug the other end into. The water tank, which has an 18 litre capacity in this particular van, is situated in the locker behind the driver's seat and can either be filled from the top via the filler hole or via the outside filler port, which is lockable. I use a jerry can. You can also fill it with standard water bottles or a hose pipe. On the outside body of the van is this storage locker, in which we have the cable for the reversing sensors. I've also got this little elbow joint for plumbing. It conveniently fits inside the water filling port, so you can pop that in one end, fill the water down there, and it just makes filling easy. This is the vent for the e-spacer. That's the sounder there for the reversing sensors, so you get good audio inside the van. And underneath this shelf here is the e-spacer diesel heater, which also has a cool fan setting as well. Also on the outside of the van is this fridge vent cover. It has two positions, whereby this panel here can be removed by twisting these screws around and taking this off. That opens it out then and is in the summer position, so more air gets through for enhanced cooling. And there's a little exhaust under there. For privacy, shade or warmth as required, there are thermal and sun-blocking blinds. Simply push the catches in to raise or lower them, pop them all the way, they clip into place, bring them down, and then you've got fly screens as well. So you can have windows wide open and these stop the flies getting in. Have them at any level or down. Release them by releasing the clips and they shoot up. The windows open on a night vent, which is there for security, so you get a little bit of fresh air coming in, and even if the blinds are fully closed, you still get the fresh air coming in through the slits here in the frame. Or you can have the window in a fixed position there, or at pretty much 90 degrees. Just tap it and it closes. There are curtains for the elevating roof. They've got these clips which fit onto the tracking on the actual window. That's the clip, and it just fits over the plastic, so you can hang the curtains all along. Also, we've got what's known as the modesty sporran, which fits on here into a little lower window on the door, where there's also the blind. There's the window blinds, and then there's also this little patch which fits onto the main cab curtains, although as you can see from the velcro, which is brand new, and the general condition of the curtain, it's never been used. And on the subject of fabrics, Romahome also provide this fabric swatch, presumably in case you ever need to patch anything on the seats or upholstery. The cab curtains have tie backs and then popper fittings at the top, and these pull across for night use, privacy. In addition to ventilation via the windows and the night vent, we also fitted this Firma roof vent, so you can lie in bed, twist it open, and this goes to pretty much 90 degrees, so you get a good flow of air there. It's also safe to leave the van with this open because it's obviously far too small for anyone to climb through, so it's good for security. Obviously, if you've got the roof up and it's sloping and it's heavy rain, you must close it then, or the rain will literally pour down the roof and pour in. But certainly in bad weather with the roof down, it is weatherproof. Romahome provide a folding table with all their vehicles, and this stores above the cab. On lifting it down, it takes only a few moments to set up. Just press this lever here, then lift up the leg. which locks into place. Same at the other side. Then lift it into the aisle or outdoors for a picnic. And there it is, set up, ready to use. To set up the beds, the first step is to pull the driver's seat fully forwards, and this also gives access then to the spare wheel and the jack. When pushing the driver's seat forwards, just be mindful that the connection for the airbag is underneath the driver's seat, so if it gets yanked or tugged even slightly, it can cause the airbag warning light to show on the dashboard. If so, just pull this apart, push it back together, and that should fix it. Very common issue. And fold the passenger seat down so you've got the platform base. Then you're ready to lower the brackets each side behind the seats and pop the bed extension on. So it just rests on the brackets in position. And now you can assemble the beds. With the head at the kitchen end, with these flaps to act as headrests, and they're also reading lights as well. Romahome used halogen, we replaced them with LED. For anyone wanting a Portapotti, there's a designated locker behind the passenger seat, so the Portapotti fits in here, and there's this cutaway here to allow the blade to be pulled in and out so it can be used in situ. For anyone wondering what these red webbing loops are for and the reinforcement, we used to run a 12-volt freezer here directly from the solar panel, and this allowed it to be strapped in. And talking of lashing points and strapping things in, we also put a lashing point here behind the driver's seat and passenger seat, which bolt right through the floor, and lashing points in the kitchen footwell as well for strapping items down, so in the event of an accident or emergency stop, things don't come flying forwards and act as a missile. When putting the cushions back together again after making up the bed, note that 2 of the backrests have ply to the very end, making them firm, and 2 are soft. The ply ends there, which enables this corner to fit underneath here, and is then held and gripped in place. Same on the other side as well. This cushion has a soft corner, whereas the adjacent cushion is firm and rigid. It just allows it to fit beneath the helmet. This Romahome has the benefit of an Ebaspacia heater which blows hot air or cool air and has a thermostat. So that's the low setting and it goes through to high. It's now switched on in the heating mode. It takes just a few moments to get itself going and fire up, and then soon we'll hear the air being blown through this vent here, which twists round so the heat can be directed to where it's needed. You can hear it ticking away in its locker. And now it's fired up and it's blowing hot air into the van. You can see now that at 12.2 volts the battery voltage drops while the Ebaspacia is in use. It does take quite a bit of power to start it up, but then once it's running it's literally just a fan, and that consumes about 1 amp an hour from memory. There's also a cool air setting, and then the light shows in blue. To lower the roof after a trip, simply grab the handle and bring it down. When it's about halfway, what I find useful is pull up the canvas now at each side, then fold the PVC paddle over. Need 2 hands to do this. So that effectively it's rolled over, that way there are no creases, and then you can lower the roof. And this method then ensures that nothing gets stuck and no canvas pokes out outside. Fasten the clips and you're done. Finally, wind up the steadies, and then the van is ready to be driven again. And I hope this video will help you make the most of your own Romahome.